So we've discussed about Python classes in the past video where I briefly mentioned the initializer or the constructor, which is underscore underscore init method that is defined inside any Python class. Okay, but I'm almost certain that most of the beginners have not understand that one. So I decided I should make another video explaining just that along with the things that are helping it, helping it work. For example, we're going to explain things like this. We're going to know what is the init and the self. We're going to know what is an attribute and what is a method. And also, in general, what is an object. We're going to have to actually know about this one too. I know I've explained most of these in the past, but hey, if you didn't understand the last one, this will give you a fresh perspective. So what is this underscore underscore init method anyway? It is one of the Python's so-called dunder methods. I know it sounds mouthful, but trust me, it's very easy. It's easier than you can imagine, okay? Dunder method just means double underscore methods. How fun is that? So it's one of the dunder methods in Python, and it is used in Python classes to initialize objects. I know I've mentioned this in the past, and you might want to need an example to be able to understand this, but I'm going to explain it anyway. So when I say initialize an object, what really do I mean, right? In order to understand what is it we are initializing, we need to know what is an object. But bear with me, the explanation is on the way. Let me write an example for you. So let's say we have a person class, a Python class called person. So this is the template that will create our objects. This is the maker of our objects, okay? So under here, let's do the diff like we did before, underscore underscore init, and then underscore underscore, and then we pass in the self. This is mandatory, and you will know why in just a minute. So let's do self, and then maybe we can say this person has a name, so we'll do a name attribute. This is what an attribute actually is. It is just a parameter of any Python function defined inside a class. That is what we call an attribute. So the context matters here, okay? If you hear anyone talking about parameters, then you know that, hey, the function is not defined inside a class, but if the function is in any way defined inside a class, then the parameters are no longer going to be called parameters. They become attributes, okay? So that's it. So like this now, I write the first attribute, and then the second, maybe I'll say job, okay? And then what? This is a Python function, like normally we do Python functions. So I'll give it its colon, and then I indented on it under it, which means I'm going to write a block of code that only belongs to it. I've explained this like 1,000 times in the past. Okay, so we use the self. The self is passed in automatically when calling the function. When the initializer is going to initialize the things, the self is not needed. I mean, like, you don't need to pass it. Okay, you just type in the name and the job. That's it. So here we'll set the self dot name. We don't have to call it self dot name. In fact, I'm gonna change it. Instead of self dot name, I'm gonna say self dot Suna. It actually means name in Hausa language, if you don't know that. Okay, so Suna is equals to name, and then self dot a key equals job. All right. So what is going on here, right? I know that this syntax is not new and we've done it in the past, but some of you guys will be like, what? What is happening here? Well, don't panic. Let me explain to you. It's very easy, really. Okay, so what you gotta do now is just think about the self. This init method, what it's actually doing here is that whenever you initialize, whenever we create a new Python object that belongs to this class, a new instance of this class, we're gonna have to give it a name, we're gonna have to give it a job, okay? That means every instance, every object, every descendant of this class will have a unique name, will have a unique job. You can even give them the same name, the same job, it doesn't matter. So self here represents the current object that we are working with, okay? So self.suna, if we print self.suna like this, it's going to take this value of the name that we define and insert it inside here, then we print it for you. That is why we say our self.suna is equal to this parameter that we define right here. That's it. That's what we're talking about here. So self.ike is also equals to this job. That means these were just attributes. They don't do anything unless you put them into work. You make them, like, you put them in the variable, like you put them in the self.suna. This thing is just like a variable. You can just make it up. Like, it doesn't have to exist somewhere else. Okay, it's just, you just have to know that if ever you call self.suna, then you give it a value. That's it. I hope this makes some sense. So now we have a Python class called person, and we've initialized something in it. We've initialized a way to define the data about objects, about its objects. Okay. So here we'll make one more function, a method. I mean, like, it's called method anyway. So as I told you, every Python function defined inside a class is called a method. Okay. So this one, that is why I told you it is called the init method instead of the init function, because it's inside a Python class. All right. So that's it. So we will go under it and then we remove the indentation. So we come to the same level as that one so that we don't repeat the same mistake like we did before. So here I'll define a method that says info, like to spit out some information about the person, the current object, the current person object. Okay. So it'll also take in the self because we're going to work with Python objects, and the objects needs a way of referencing itself. That's why we use the self. Okay. So here we just return something, like we say return, and then we do an f string. If you don't know what this is, I'm sorry, I cannot explain right now. So we'll return self dot name, that's the name of the person, and then we'll say maybe is a self dot job. So maybe if you are a lawyer, it'll say your name is a lawyer, if you understand what I'm talking about here. Okay, so we save it, and there we go. We have a Python class and a method, another method. Okay, Python will automatically call this one, but your custom method, like the one you just actually made by yourself, you're gonna have to call it in order to be able to see the results, or in order to be able to interact with it. So here I remove the indentation, and then I'll go down a little bit more. So I will now make an object. Okay, let me do a comment. I'll say an object, an object. Okay, we'll say driver equals person, that we call the person class person, and then since you have information that needed to be passed in, and it has an init method here, then that means it's going to need parentheses. So you put a parentheses, and then you provide the values of the items, of the attributes. This attribute is name. Okay, so we provide name here. The self is not needed here. You don't have to type in the self. It's going to be called, it's going to be applied automatically by Python. So you just provide the custom attributes. Okay, so person name, let's say Ali, and then the second attribute is job. So we'll say, I don't know, driver. Yeah, so we save it. So like this, we'll just print person dot Suna. Okay, that's what we defined here, person dot Suna. So if we do this, we'll see the name of the person. Let me do Python app.py. Okay, my bad. I typed in person instead of this is the actual name of the object, driver. So I typed in person instead of driver, which is incorrect. So now if I save it, and then I'll clear my terminal, and then rerun it again, we have Ali. That's the name of the person. Okay, so if we go down a little, and then we do person dot ikey, that's the job here. So person dot ikey will print driver. That's the name of the ikey, right? So let's give it some clarity. Name, and then here we'll do job. Okay, so that's it. If we clear the terminal, rerun again, we'll see name Ali, job driver. Now this information is kind of hard coded, so I'm gonna make it a comment, and then we'll print it out using this method, such that we can just see self.name is, for example, we'll see Ali is a driver. That's the message we'll expect from this method. So we'll do driver dot info, and then we call it. That's it. If we do like this, we print it out. So it did not return anything. Like, it did not print out anything, but it actually returns this message. Okay, but since we did not print it out, we'll not see it. So we're gonna have to print it out. So we'll just need to print it. So let's put the return value inside a print function, so it will actually print out something. So here I'll rerun the program. Let me clear the terminal and do Python app.py, and then it's a self.name is a self.job, which is very weird. It's supposed to not act that way. So I'll put the F I see the problem right away. So I put the F outside, and then I'll try to redo this again. Okay, let me clear the terminal, and then like this, it says person object has no attribute name. Because um, I'm not used to using self-touch sooner. Like I'm not used to changing these ones. I see the problems. Like I have issues and then I see them right away. I don't have to even pause and check or something like that. I can see them. I'm not used to changing the name to name self-touch sooner, self-touch Aiki. I just use it as self-touch name because name, self-touch job because job. So that's what I use here, which is not correct. I'll have to actually use self-touch sooner here to print out the name, and then self.Aiki, that's the job. So here, if I clear the terminal, rerun again, there we go. You see Ali is a driver. And I hope this kind of makes some sense. If this still doesn't click for you, let me know in the comments. What is it that you don't understand? Why are you confused? Like, what did I say that made you confused? You can pause the video right now and just give me a comment, say, hey, Alamin, I did not understand this and did not understand that, such that you don't forget later on what is it that you didn't understand, all right? So with this, we now have one object, one person object that we can actually work with, which is named driver. Now I can duplicate this line, which means once I duplicate it, I have another person object. So this one I can name it, I don't know, pilot. So pilot, and his name is um, Adam. His name is Adam, and then he's a pilot, obviously, pilot. All right. So if we do print, pilot.info, we now have two different person objects. They do have the same parameters and stuff initialized, but they have different values assigned to their parameters. And the message they print out when you do pilot.info and driver.info is not even related, right? So that's one of the most lovely things about OOP. You can have as many objects as you want, and each of those as many objects as you want can have different details about it, different information about it. And that's perfectly okay. Like it doesn't get any cluttered, it doesn't mess with your code base or anything. You will not end up with a monolith. Let's print out this one. Ali is a driver, Adam is a pilot. Both of them are just objects. And then they have different information about them. That's it. Think of your Facebook profile. Think of it like an object. If you go to your profile on Facebook, it's actually an object. You are an object on Facebook. So your profile defines who you are, what you do, like where you live, and a lot of those like that. So if you go to another person's profile, that means you go to visit another object programmatically. That means the details, the everything about that different object is going to be different. That's it. This is the actual basics of Python objects. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next